Here we have the Ruger Mark IV 22-45 Lite. This is the model number 43926 if you want to look it up online. It's a gun in 22 caliber. Before I start, I just want to mention that if you like this kind of videos, please press like, subscribe if you can. First off, we can see that it has this gun comes in a pretty large box. A little too big to my taste. We can see that the inside here, the foam, is not glued to the top. It should be, because this just becomes a mess over time. We can see that it has a user manual, fairly decent user manual, nothing special. You can also see how, obviously, to take the gun apart. We put this back on the top, and we can see that the gun itself has a magazine. Putting the gun aside, we can see that there's another magazine. So we have two magazines. We have a lock, and for some reason there is another lock inside of this case. We also have this ring. It's a tool to add to the gun. The safety on the gun is ambidextrous, and if you want to remove it on one side and keep the safety on one side only, you will have to add that ring to the side of the gun that you do not want the safety to be on. Put this back. We can see that there's a lot of air in this box. Way too big, bigger than it needs to be. We can see here that we have a nice gold anodized color finish on a polymer receiver with an aluminum top, and on this particular model, which is quite lightweight. It comes in a variety of nice standard colors, such as red and blue, green, white, gray, black, and the only difference in addition to the colors is the cutout in the front here. Otherwise it's the same gun. It does not have a very thick barrel, and you can see inside of here that there's a narrow barrel inside here, and the barrel is called hammer forged, and I believe it to be quite accurate. This gun comes threaded. There's a 1/2 inch by 28 threads. Allows for accessories, most popular being suppressors, and we see the thread protector on here. On top we also have the Picatinny rail as it comes from the factory, and it makes for easy installation of optical sights or similar if you want. We can see here that we have a identical gun with both suppressor and the red dot sight installed. The suppressor makes the gun more stable and easier to point. We know that the gun is bolt operated and not slide operated, as most other pistols are. This should be both mechanically more durable and also make for a potentially more accurate design. We can see that the sights here don't move with the slide or bolt with each shot. The bolt has ears, so we can see here, for easier grip, really easy to manipulate. And you also have the bolt release button here on the side. I find it placed a little too far forward. When I take a proper grip on it, it comes just a little bit too far forward. Hard to depress. It's also not ambidextrous. But the slide can be operated manually, so that should be of little concern. We can also see that the ejection port here is nicely rounded, and there's also an aluminum trigger in the same color as the top here. The trigger is not necessarily heavy, but it has a lot of creep to it, and the trigger pull here is about as bad as it gets, which is a shame. The amount of creep will make it unforgiving for new shooters to shoot accurately. I can shoot it close to as accurately as I shoot KMRs, Beretta, Browning, but most new shooters will not. Take a look at the trigger here. It doesn't translate or transfer well to the video, but we will take a look at it here. Quite a lot of creep. There's not a lot of movement after the shot is fired. And we can see that the reset, not too long, but then again, that same amount of creep. The lightweight of the gun itself and the amount of creep and the not too light trigger makes it hard to shoot accurately. Not everybody cares for the last bit of accuracy, but it's definitely worth mentioning. There are aftermarket triggers to be found from Volkswagen and others, and I would definitely get that, even if it adds to the cost of the gun, if you want a gun to be as shootable as possible. The sights are adjustable target sights. For me, for some reason, I had a hard time finding the front sight fast. The front sight can be replaced with aftermarket fiber optic sights, and unless you shoot in perfect lighting conditions, I would definitely recommend to upgrade to that fiber optic sights. There's a flaw, at least with both the guns that I've tried here recently, where the screw is being held in place by the rear sight. And it's a design that Ruger has done before, and it's usually fine. But here, the set screw is so loose that if you depress the sight slightly, the screw is completely loose. I'll try to show you. Here, you can see that it doesn't move. But as soon as I depress it, it moves completely freely. I don't have to use any force to move it. And if I shoot the gun fast, the screw will become looser and looser, and the sight will move higher and higher, and as a result of that, the groups will also start to climb. I added some Loctite. I believe you should do that, because this screw has come loose when firing, fast firing multiple times. But if you choose to use Loctite, as I've done here, another problem occurs. You can see here, if I depress the sight, it doesn't move back up. So if I depress it and don't think about it, then the point of aim differs. So I don't know what would be the best solution there, but I've chosen to use Loctite, and I think most people maybe should if they have that problem. The magazine release button is placed where you expect it to be. It's not ambidextrous. The magazines are a tight fit. You need to press really hard to have it click in there. It's perfectly fine. They're dewdrop free. The magazines are of usual good quality, and there are 2 of them shipped with the gun. Unfortunately, there is a magazine disconnect, which I am not a huge fan of. I want to add that the magazines are fairly crude. They hang and they are tight. And these are the first magazines I've come across that I really wanted to put some lubricant on for easier operation. May not be an issue for all, but all the 4 magazines that I've tested now has been really crude. They have lightened somewhat over the last, I don't know how many rounds we fired, a couple of thousand through this one, 1,000 through the other. So they are loosening up. Last, we have a 1911 style grip with checkered panels. They are indeed comfortable, and with the front and the rear serrations, they offer good grip and hold. I think the grips for me are slightly too thin. I would want them to be a little thicker, personally. That could bring issues for other shooters though, so I would probably remedy it by adding some tape. Takedown has improved a lot with the Ruger guns lately, and we can see with the takedown button at the end here that it's among the easier ones to take apart that you can find. No tools needed. Make sure the gun is unloaded. Put the bolt back in place, forward, engage the safety, press the button, and just unhook it from the frame. You can see that the frame, being polymer, very easy, very light. The bolt comes right out. The gun has not been cleaned, but it is really easy to clean. To put the gun back together, just put it back in place and click it back into place. Really easy to take apart. All in all, this is a very nice gun. In Norway it comes with a $1,000 price tag, almost. Compared to other guns, and mechanically it's fine. I enjoy it as much as I do the other Ruger offerings, and as much as I like the Browning Buckmark. And if you want a fun gun, maybe add a suppressor, this is a really nice gun. However, I find that the Buckmark and Ruger Mark IV to be easier to shoot for new shooters. Price-wise in Norway, you are getting closer and closer to Hammerly territory, and then you really need to decide what your use scenario is. For pure accuracy, there are better to be found, but for fun, this one ranks really high. I need to add that these two guns have not been perfectly reliable. They seem to dirty up fairly quickly, but regardless of how dirty it is, the spent case sometimes gets stuck between the next cartridge and the top of the receiver here, where the bolt recoil guide protrudes. This is annoying, and I'm not sure I would trust it if absolute reliability was needed. That has probably also improved a little bit with a couple of thousand rounds we've fired through it, but it's still not 100% reliable. As I said, all in all, it's a really nice gun.